After his baptism, Jesus retreats to the wilderness where he is tempted. He's just been washed in the life-giving waters of baptism by John the Baptist. And then he goes off before he begins his public ministry into the desert where he is tempted by the devil. Deserts, if we look at them, usually are desolate and dry, hot and cold. They seem arid and wasteland. But if we really look closely at the desert, we see that underneath all that aridness and seemingly dryness and death, there's really a life that's very, very much part of a living desert. My brother lives in Texas with his family, and they're called the high desert there. It only gets up to 110 in the summer. But when you look at it, sometimes I've been there and it snowed actually, and it actually rained. And after a rain in the desert, there's a whole new dimension to it, a whole new vibrancy in life. So even though it looks desolate and depressing, really deserts are alive. And that's where Jesus goes to pray. And like us, in his humanness, he encounters evil. Remember, Jesus is divine, but he's also fully human. So he also experiences temptations like we do. Only thing is that he never succumbs to sin. And after his sojourn in the desert, he emerges victorious because he's guarded by the angels and watched over. And he knows that even in the desert, he's never alone. God is with him in the presence, his Father is with him in the presence of the angels. In many ways, the desert parallels the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve live in the luxury of the garden, where everything is fertile and full of water and life-giving nourishment. And by their sin, they are driven from that garden into the desert of life. They are basking in the waters of life, but they fail to temptation. It drives them into the desert of sin, death, and destruction. And it is in the desert, then, where we meet Jesus once again, where he encounters the forlorn dust of Eden. And in the midst of that forlornness and fasting and prayer, he conquers sin and death. The good news for those who are weary of their weaknesses, for those who are tempted by despondency at their inability to turn from sin, we have the desert, we have renewal, we have the gift of not being alone when we are in the state of sin. In Lent, we're in the dry desert of our weakness, where we have been defeated, and the desert where sin is defeated, and the desert blooms again. Let me tell you a secret. Let me proclaim what I hear in secret. As one who hears confessions, I can tell you the desert blooms. You may think that confessions are interesting. They are not. Sin is not new. It's not interesting. It is sad. In the confessional, I am given the grace to hear the holiness of saints. What brings a person to confession? What brings them out of the desert to confront their sin and say, I've given into temptation. I am sorry for what I have done. When people confess their sins, I hear their faithfulness, their humility, their perseverance, and desire for holiness. I hear God's grace, mercy, and faithfulness. So we enter the desert through sin. We are never alone, though, because God is giving us the grace to turn away from sin. And in the sacrament of reconciliation, we can celebrate that forgiveness, and sin is defeated, and temptation gives way to holiness. So let us use this time of Lent to go to the desert and contemplate and pray, but also know that with the victory of Easter, the desert will bloom again. Yes, we are tempted. We give into some temptation, where we are ministered to by angels, and our sins are forgiven, and the desert blooms. We never lose hope and faith in the mercy and wonderfulness of God. We see that very clearly after the destruction of the world in the great flood of Noah. He promises, through this covenant of the rainbow, that he will never desert us. He will always be with us. And through the desert of our lives, he walks with us, and we are tended to by the angels of God who watch over us, protect us, and lead us to freedom and new life.
Thank you for participating in the digital liturgy today. The digital ministry touches the lives of many people, as does almost 80 other ministries here at OLPH. Grateful for the community that connects to OLPH through this digital forum. It's unbelievable how many people are able to access the liturgy and other events because of this ministry. Please consider supporting OLPH. All of your sacrifices help to sustain this parish and to keep moving us into the future. Thank you very much, and keep watching.